Hello, my name is Karen Gaines, and today we are going to talk about the bookkeeper who stole over $800,000 over a 5-year period from a nonprofit organization. So this scenario takes place in Darien, Colorado at National Veteran Service Funds. So a little bit about the National Veteran Service Funds. This organization was a nonprofit organization that provided case-managed social services and limited medical assistance to those who fought in the Vietnam and Persian Gulf War and their families. They helped pay for things like utilities, bills, wheelchairs, scooters, just the basic necessities that veterans needed to survive. The organization also provided assistance to families who had disabled children. So the National Veteran Service Funds was staffed by 2 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees. According to Charity Navigator, the nonprofit raised over $9 million in fiscal year 2011 and 2012. Of that $9 million, 70% of those funds went to solicitors and fundraising efforts, which was about $6.7 million. 18.5% went to organizational expenses, which was about $1.7 million, and 11% went to administrative costs, which was about $1 million. From 2002 to 2011, the solicitors helped raise $70 million, and of that, $39 million was used to pay them. The other half, the other half went to the charity. And it's reported that about $5.5 million was used to actually help veterans. So that $5.5 million was a small portion to go towards the actual mission. And perhaps solicitors were needed starting out, but I wonder if they were needed on a continual basis, seeing that their fees were so high. I mean, I'm sure some of these contributors would have made monthly donations so that the organization wouldn't be so dependent on the solicitors year after year. And so just, some of my thoughts. So now let's go into Cynthia Tanner. And Cynthia is the bookkeeper that actually stole all of that money. Cynthia began working at the National Veteran Service Funds in 2008. At the time, she was 46 years old and a single mother of 2. Cynthia was responsible for handling the company's payroll and cash disbursements to the charity's consumers. So essentially, Cynthia, she was in charge of all of the cash, all of the bookkeeping duties, just everything related to money she was responsible for. Cynthia embezzled money from January 2009 to 2014. So she started stealing shortly after she began working at National Veteran Service Funds. She essentially wasted no time in stealing, and I don't think this was her first time stealing money. I think there's been other victims in the past. It's just this time she got caught. Over that 5-year period, she stole over $830,000. And here's some of the things that she spent the money on. She wrote $185,000 to herself and family members. So she wrote 16 checks to her 23-year-old daughter, totaling $42,525. She wrote 17 checks to her 25-year-old son, totaling $19,925, according to court documents. She made 7 car loan payments, totaling $3,379. She used the agency credit cards for personal use, airfare, vacations, and just other internet purchases. So she was having a good time with the charity's money that was supposed to go to the veterans who fought for our country. So Cynthia did eventually get caught during an audit. conducted by McInerney, Brady and Company, the accounting firm found irregularities. From there, it was quickly determined that Cynthia was using the money for personal use. In May 2014, police were notified by Phil Kraft, who was the organization's executive director and treasurer. She was arrested June 2nd, 2014. Phil had no idea what was going on. He just 100% trusted her. He just thought, hey, she's doing the right things. In reviewing records, police found that all of the suspect ledger memos were actual National Veteran Social Fund members who had received assistance from them during the last 7 years. But the actual checks indicate Cynthia made them out to herself and family members. So she was essentially just creating ledger memos, putting it in the name of the veterans, but she wrote the checks to herself and her family. So, maybe that's why the executive director just didn't catch what was going on. Cynthia told the police that she took advances from the charity, but would then pay them back by deducting it from her monthly paycheck. Tanner admitted that sometimes she would forget to deduct the money, but claimed she was surprised by the totals, according to the affidavit. Tanner also claimed her children were under the impression that she was deducting the funds given to them from her paycheck. Cynthia also told the police that she forgets things because of her head injury in 2011 and brain surgery. When police told her they knew checks were written prior to her head injury, she became very quiet. So in conclusion, Cynthia Tanner was ultimately accused of altering records, falsely claiming the stolen money was paid to veterans, and failing to report the stolen money for tax purposes. She was 53 at the time of being caught. She was arrested on a charge of first-degree larceny. She was charged with 5 counts of wire fraud and 5 counts of tax evasion. So ultimately, Cynthia was sentenced to 2 years in prison for embezzling $800,000 from 2009 to 2013 and failing to pay taxes on that income, which was approximately $270,000, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Her prison sentence began August 30th of 2016. Cynthia was ordered to pay full restitution to the National Veteran Service Fund and back taxes, interest, and penalties in an amount that exceeds $500,000. Now, in my opinion, Cynthia got off very easy because the charges she faced could have landed her in prison for up to 100 years, but she only received 2 years in prison, so she definitely got off easy. So, what could have been done to prevent this whole thing from happening? Well, one, internal controls could have been put in place. And internal controls, all that is processes put in place to prevent fraud and other illegal activity. And there were no internal controls at the National Veterans Service Funds. There could have been a second part-time bookkeeper to segregate responsibilities. Cynthia was the only bookkeeper at this organization, so she had full control over all of the money, over all of the cash disbursements, just over everything financial. The executive director could have been a lot more involved. He could have asked for a weekly cash disbursement list. He could have put a limit on her credit card. Say, say maybe a $200 credit card limit. But, it seems like there were multiple credit cards with, very high credit limits where she could have, where she was just able to go on these vacations and spend, whatever she wanted to spend the money on. Also, they could have had yearly audits or at least yearly reviews. They were receiving millions of dollars every year, And in the 1 year, they received $9 million in donations. And, to not have yearly audits or reviews is strange to me. Now, I do understand it was an auditor that caught the discrepancies, but I'm thinking that was probably the first audit they had ever had, or maybe the first audit in a very, very long time. So, dealing with the public's money in such large amounts, it's always good to have some type of audit or review. So hopefully you enjoyed the story and was able to learn something from it. Thank you for watching and have a great day.